Hi everyone. So last week we spent a lot of time on properties of exponents and reviewing those properties from Algebra 1. And the reason is because this week we're going to use those same properties to simplify or evaluate expressions with rational exponents. So now we're going to be dealing with fractions, so it might be a little bit more complicated. So it's really important that you remember those properties that we practiced last week. So I'm going to go through a handful of examples. There's some that I'll have you do on your own, pausing the video when that time comes, and some that I'll go through as well. So starting with the first one in the top left. So I have x to the power of 1/2 times x to the power of 3/4. So notice here that I have the same base, x and x, and that I am multiplying. That's the multiplication symbol in the middle there. That means that I can add exponents. Here's the tricky part. When we're dealing with fractions, remember from last unit, we need a common denominator in order to add. So if I have x to the 1/2 and x to the 3/4, I see that I can multiply by 1/2 by 2/2. So then this becomes x to the power of 2/4 times x to the power of 3/4. Now that I have that common denominator, I can add the exponents. So 2/4 plus 3/4 is, sorry about that, x to the power of 5/4. So I'm going to ask you to stop for a moment, pause the video, and try the second example. Okay, so for the second example, you should have gotten 4 to the power of 13/15. My common denominator in this case was 15, so I multiplied 2/3 by 5/5 and 1/5 by 3/3 to get 4 to the power of 10/15 times 4 to the power of 3/15. I then added those exponents. Looking at our last example in this row, so x to the power of 4/3 divided by x to the power of 5/6. Now with division, I actually subtract the exponents. I first need a common denominator though. So I have 3 and 6 currently in my denominators. So I'm going to multiply 4/3 by 2/2. So then I get 4 to the power of 8/6 divided by, x to the power of 8/6 divided by x to the power of 5/6. I can then subtract those exponents to get x to the power of 3/6, which reduces to x to the power of 1/2. There's a lot of simplifying involved in this lesson and then upcoming too. So again, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and try this next example, 5 to the power of 3/2 divided by 5 to the power of 7/3. And I will do the same. Okay, so this one was a little bit more complicated. So let's start with the beginning. So the first thing is we needed a common denominator. So I multiplied 3/2 by 3/3. Remember when you're multiplying fractions, numerator times numerator. So 3 times 3 is 9, 2 times 3 is 6. Then in the denominator, 7/3, I multiplied by 2/2 and got 14/6. So now I have 6 in both denominators. I can then subtract those exponents. So 9/6 minus 14/6 gives me -5/16. Anytime you see a negative exponent, this is when we make a fraction, and it becomes 1/5 to the power of 5/16. Okay, our next property, this one's a little bit simpler here, is a power to a power. So I have x to the power of 2/5 all to the power of 3/4. So with this, all you have to do is multiply the exponents. No common denominator needed. So I end up getting x to the power of 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times 4 is 20. Now I would ask that you reduce this. So 6 and 20 are both divisible by 3. 3 goes into 6, 2. 2 goes into 6 3 times, and 2 goes into 20 10 times. So the correct answer would be x to the power of 3/10. Again, I'm going to ask you to do the next example. I am going to point out here that I have 1/4 and 3. To make this a fraction, we can just put it over 1, and then it's 3/1. So I'm going to pause and ask you to do that problem. Okay, so that one was actually pretty straightforward. 1/4 times 3/1 is 3/4, and there's no reducing, so that would be our final answer. Now, these next few are using the same properties we talked about earlier. However, we're going to actually evaluate, so we're going to take it one step further. So if you'll look here at this first one on the left, 9 to the power of 1/6 times 9 to the power of 2/6. I have same base. I'm going to add the exponents because it's multiplication. And I already have that common denominator, which is great. So when I go ahead and add these, I get 9 to the power of 3/6 or 9 to the power of 1/2. Now, here's where I'm going to hope that after a week or two, you get in the habit of then thinking, okay, what does this mean in radical form? Well, if I rewrote this as a radical, it's really the square root of 9 because the 2 becomes my index and it's to the power of 1. And the square root of 9 is 3. So that would be my final answer. With this next one here, so I have 4 to the power of 2/8 times 4 to the power of 1/4. I need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply 1/4 by 2/2. So I end up with 4 to the power of 4/8 when I add those together, which is 4 to the power of 1/2. Again, this is really the square root of 4, which is 2. Okay, so my next one here is division. So I have 81 to the power of 5/8 divided by 81 to the power of 3/8. Same denominator, which is awesome. So I can go ahead and subtract those exponents. So 81 to the power of 2/8, which is actually 81 to the power of 1/4. Because 2 and 8 are both divisible by 2. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 goes into 8 4 times. And this is equivalent to the 4th root of 81. So what number times itself 4 times gives me 81? And that would be 3. Okay, I have just a few more examples here. So remember, at any point you can always go back, rewind, pause if you need a little bit more time on each example. So this next one's 64 times 49 to the power of 1/2. In this case, I can actually distribute that exponent. So it becomes 64 to the power of 1/2 times 49 to the power of 1/2. The reason this helps me out is if I rewrite this now in radical form, so the square root of 64 times the square root of 49, well, the square root of 64 is 8, the square root of 49 is 7. So I end up with 8 times 7, which is 56. That ends up being a lot simpler math than trying to do 64 times 49 all to the power of 1/2. I'm going to skip the next example, and I'm going to finish up with 125 to the power of -1/3. So the minute I see that negative exponent, I know that I'm going to make a fraction, and this is going to be 1 over 125 to the positive 1/3. Not 1/2, but 1/3. And then I'm going to rewrite this as a radical. So 1 over the cubed root of 125. So what number times itself 3 times gives me 125? And that would be 5. So my final answer is 1/5. So that is all for today. There's a practice quiz dealing with this, and please email me if you have any questions. Thank you.